Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Allen questions Wall's faith. Also, Ken McFeeters files a lawsuit. Good or bad? And the legislature races towards the finish line. Well, it's like my old pappy used to say, wish for the best and prepare for the worst. Looks like the worst might be coming. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and the fabulous, one and only, Josh Moon, columnist at APR and investigative reporter.
I like it. I like it. If we do a couple more takes, man, I don't know what my title will be, but I like it so far.
Well, it just keeps going up, doesn't it?
It does.
Well,
it does.
Y'all can just keep resetting the clock for us.
Well, there you go. This past week, we saw politics at its worst. Wes Allen is running against John Wall for the Republican primary for the lieutenant governor's race. This week, Wes Allen attacked John Wall for going to an interfaith event in Anniston at the Islamic Center. Now, he attacked him, Susan, in such a way to basically say, hey, I'm more Christian than John Wall, because I would never set foot in an interfaith meeting held at a Muslim center. But there were people there of all different faiths that were gathered to participate in an event. John Wall shot back and said he would never not attend an event because it gave him an opportunity to show his witness as Jesus Christ had commanded him to do. Susan, when we start seeing politicians want to out-Christian each other, it shows how bad a campaign is really going.
It was so disappointing. I mean, the campaigns are supposed to be about policy and about issues, and to attack someone on their faith. And, you know, we know both candidates, and I can tell you, John Wall is one of the strongest Christians I've ever met in my life. But the meeting was more about people coming together instead of dividing. And what Wes Allen has done here is, like you said, basically, I'm a better Christian than you because I would never go. Now, I myself have been to a mosque. I've been to two of them in Istanbul. And I went there to see the iconography, to see what it's like, not to entertain not being a Christian. That would never happen.
No, and I had several good conversations at the mosque with those of the Islamic faith. They were not trying to convert me. We were having conversations. But Josh, to me, this is what we call in boxing below the belt. And it's just one of those things that you just don't do. And look, I have no dog in this fight personally. Wes Allen's a fine guy as far as I know. John Wall's a fine guy as far as I know. But boy, when you go down that road to out-Christian your opponent by accusing them of going to an interfaith event as something wrong. Politicians forever have been going to interfaith events. We have plenty of pictures of them, plenty of stories of them. This is not unusual.
No, it's really not. And boy, if you don't have a dog in this fight, I don't even want to see the fight. Listen, on top of everything else, it's really stupid. I mean, Wes Allen has accused or has questioned the faith, the Christian faith of a guy named Nehemiah Ezekiel. I mean, what are we doing here, man? This sort of thing is, it plays to a lot of the old bigotry of Alabama. We had the mayor of Montgomery, Stephen Reed, on our podcast this week, Alabama Politics this week, and he talked about this rhetoric from Tommy Tuberville as well, and what it has done to people within the Muslim community around Montgomery, and how they've tried to reach out to them, and he's talked also about, looking back at the progress we've made over the course of the last 50, 60 years, and how it has steadily kind of marched forward up until the last several years, in which we have taken some steps backwards. And this is one of them. The fact that these people feel so comfortable in castigating a minority religion in America today is really disheartening. And the fact that they would believe, I mean, it's pretty clear here. Wes Allen's losing this election, and he's trying to gain some ground. I mean, that's the only reason you do this sort of ignorance right here. I mean, really, let's just be honest about it. He's losing. He wanted to make a splash to get some attention from, I don't know who would be entertained by this, but whatever awful person would vote for somebody who says some things like this. He was trying to attract that attention. And so, that some people would be swayed by that in 2026 is really kind of disheartening, don't you think?
Yeah, and we've talked to several Republicans that were just shocked and offended.
And the interesting thing about it is the Muslim community in Alabama is by and large Republican. Mm-hmm. They are because they're very conservative. But I remember standing outside of a mosque in Istanbul talking with a group of men who spoke English well enough that we could communicate. And one of the big questions is they said, how is it after 25, 26 years, we're hated because of what happened on 9/11? But it's very discouraging.
Which was actually done by the Saudis.
And more Saudis than anybody else, but we're coddling up to the Saudi prince for sure. But when faith gets used as a weapon, everybody loses. And you can say all you want to about how horrible Islam is and how horrible. You know what? There are people that say Christianity is horrible. There was a time when Catholics were questioned for their loyalty to the Pope. And Josh, we got about 56 seconds. This is the lowest form of political rhetoric that we have seen so far in this race.
Yeah, it's a fine example of why we have religious freedom in this country. Is because we're supposed to be above this. We're supposed to allow people to live and let live here, and we're not a Christian country. We had every opportunity in the world to become a Christian country, and the founders here decided on religious freedoms as well. You have a freedom to believe whatever you would like to believe, or to believe nothing at all, and to not be inundated with this. And it's supposed to be kept out of our government to a large extent, and that is the way that we are supposed to conduct ourselves. And it was something that we took great pride in all of those golden years that conservatives love to talk about. They took great pride in keeping Christianity and keeping faith out of their politics, and saying that we're going to govern outside of this, and whatever you do in terms of your faith, you do at home and in your church. And I don't understand how we cannot see the destruction caused by going down this pathway. I just don't understand it.
And if you doubt this about how the founding fathers felt, look up Washington's letter to the Hebrew congregation. Very easy to find. He laid down what the country stood for and where religion fit in that address. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, You'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. This past week, gubernatorial candidate Ken McFeeters filed a lawsuit against Tommy Tuberville and the Republican Party, challenging Tuberville's residency and the party's neglect in doing a deeper dive into whether Tuberville lives in Florida or Alabama. Josh, is this the right case at the right time, or is this the wrong case at the wrong time?
Yeah, it's the latter. And it's, and look, two things can be true about this. Okay. Ken McFeeters can have some good points about some things and raise some legitimate issues, and he has. This lawsuit has raised some legitimate issues, although it's one of the weirder lawsuits I've ever seen filed. By the God's Law team, but at the same time, it's not going to make it very far. And that has nothing to do necessarily with the merits. And I think it's some things that I do think it's something outside of the Tuberville residency issue. And we all know where I stand on this. He doesn't live here and and he can't prove it. But outside of that, I think that McFeeters' lawsuit does raise some questions that I think we should all answer, not just as Republicans, but also as Democrats as well. If we're going to give the parties in this state such authority to determine who lands on a ballot and who doesn't, who we do or don't get to vote for, if we're going to allow them to make these determinations, then there should be some entity, a court system, that holds them accountable in some way, that makes them follow their own bylaws and their own rules and make sure that they're actually adhering to these things. But typically the courts have taken a very hands-off approach and said, listen, the Republican Party's got their own set of rules in here, and they determine this, and they're responsible for putting whoever they want to on the ballot, same as the Democratic Party, and we're not going to mess with that. And I think that's what's going to happen with this lawsuit that Ken McFeeters has filed. They're going to say, look, we don't have the authority here by precedent to do anything. And I think they're going to boot it pretty quickly. I just don't think that that's the proper way to do this, not simply in this issue, but in all issues in which the court is involved. I think they should be required to take a look at whether or not the parties handled these things properly.
And well, this is not even the bylaws of the party. This is a constitutional issue.
Correct.
It's allowing the Republican Party to overstep the requirements
Yes.
in the Constitution of the state of Alabama.
Well, if he does not meet the requirements, there is a responsibility there. And I think that does land in court. It's just not in Covington County and not this court. It's going to go to Montgomery County to be heard there. But I think this is more of a distraction. It raises serious questions. Yes, these questions are widely known. But for me, it seems like this is an ill-fated run at Tuberville. But listen, this is America. You can sue anybody for any reason. And I'm not saying that the case itself is not without merit. I'm just saying, to me, it seems like the wrong case at the wrong time.
I think you're right about that. And listen, I think McFeeters is frustrated because he wanted this to be heard. He didn't feel like he got a fair shake within the party, And I think that, listen, there's some other people, Doc Mancuso has raised some questions about what happened here. There's another gentleman that was going to challenge Andrew Jones that felt like he got a bad shake. There have been some Democrats over the years who have felt like they've been given an unfair hearing at the party. And I think, honestly, I genuinely believe that there needs to be a mechanism in place to force the parties to do things fairly.
Well, I was talking to a Republican, longtime Republican, who knows the candidate as well, and he said, "Hey, Doc Mancuso would have wiped the floor with Ernie Yarborough, and this is why they wanted to keep him off the ballot, because he would have just blocked him and knocked him out, and that's why they didn't want him on the ticket. Now he's running as an independent, and I hear it's going very, very well. They're to the point where they're actually looking for more volunteers and to hire more staff, because I think Mancuso can self-finance something like this. But
Ernie, he's not hurting. He's okay. Yeah.
Ernie Yarborough is a weak candidate. I want to move on to this next subject, because we're getting down to the final 6 days of legislative days of the session, and contraceptive and IVF has been big issue since the Supreme Court ruling and saying that IVF was not permissible really in Alabama, and then the Senate and House came back and said, well, yeah, but under blah 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 blah. But it's really never been settled. Now Tabitha Eisner, who is the vice chairwoman of the Democratic Party, and also running for the Senate here in the state, really laid out the case of why this should be addressed, but I don't think it gets much of a hearing.
This is an election year. This is a hot button issue. If they do, they will raise the issue and then bury it, not do anything with it. That's just what I think. And that's going to be the same thing with any controversial issue, including, closing the primaries and whatever, because they've only got, 5 days left?
Yeah,
they still have to get the general fund budget closed.
But Josh, I think she and Marilyn Lands, both Democratic, both women who are running for office, and Marilyn Lands is serving right now, they have both made this case because it is a strong issue among women and some families.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't even know why they're wasting their time, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't President Trump and Katie Britt promise us that this was going to be handled at the federal level, and we were going to cover this, and IVF was going to be protected, and not to worry our little heads over these things? Didn't this happen?
They promised it.
No. But if you're in Alabama, it doesn't trickle down; it trickles on us.
Wait a minute! Didn't Dan Roberts also come out and he and some others have a bill that was going to solve this whole thing? Why are we even worried about this? I mean, these men solved this, right? Didn't they solve this, or what? I don't know. I don't know why these little ladies have got their hair all in a bunch over this sort of thing. Come on, girls!
I'm clutching my pearls, Josh. I'm clutching my pearls.
Well,
okay.
I've got a pretty good idea why they've got their panties in a wad, because men are trying to tell them what they can do once again with their bodies.
Historically been true
but
for generations.
We're going to have to leave it
Thousands
right there.
of years.
You're watching the
Forever.
voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, as you brought up, they are coming off spring break. They go back in on Tuesday. They basically have 6 legislative days to finish up all the work that they need to do. Now, our understanding is they want to sine die, get the heck out of there. That's what sine die means, by the way. I can't stand you people anymore. Get the heck out of here.
I hope you die.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's where they are right now.
That is what signing die means. But they've got some big issues. I mean, of course, they've got to pass the 2 budgets. That has to happen. But you know, if you look at it, we still got money, but we're really struggling to get to cover Medicaid because of all the big beautiful BS coming out of Washington, and other and something you bring up all the time. There doesn't seem to be any long-term planning in these budgets. So, I mean, what are you seeing here? I know you're shocked, Josh.
I cannot believe it. No
And
planning.
we're lucky.
Get out of town.
We're lucky to have short-term planning in any of these budgets, you know, like past next year.
Yeah.
So I don't foresee that they're going to have any long-term planning coming in this one. I don't foresee that there's going to be a lot that really gets done. I think there's going to be a lot, like I said last segment, that kind of gets, oh, well, we ran out of time because the Democrats, which happens at the end of every session, and especially one like this when you're in an election year where they pop up and say, oh, look, I'm doing something. Oh, crap, we ran out of time.
I mean, Josh, the impact of these budgets on education, on families, on health care, on economic stability. I mean, these are all still hanging out there while they're making backroom deals to, get pork money.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's and I wish we would focus more sometimes on that education budget that gave teachers just a tiny raise that does not keep up with inflation and didn't save anything for retired teachers again, but at the same time was able to find $250 million for the Choose Act scam. And so, but that's beside, you're right. We've got these budgets hanging out there that are going to affect millions and millions of Alabamians. And we have no long-term plan on how we're ever going to afford some of the things that we need to do. We have a healthcare infrastructure that is absolutely crumbling right now. Okay. We have, the last report I saw, there was 9 more hospitals that are in the red and are on the verge. I mean, I'm talking about weeks within closing at this point. And it's going to, there was one that closed a couple of weeks ago that has now left a 4-county area without any sort of healthcare service. And so these things that we've talked about these things for years, and they have kicked this thing around and done different things, and they fail to address any of the most pertinent issues. But we have found time to talk about getting prayer back in school and to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and to whatever is being done with the PSE or isn't being done with the PSE, and then all of these things that we've talked about. None of them get to the core root that affect most everybody on a day-to-day basis. And I don't know what I have to do to make people pay attention to those things more. I don't know what we need to say or what we need to write or what we need to talk about to make average voters pay attention more.
Well, maybe we could put the prayer back in school where they pray that the legislature would fund education to a level that we might get out of being near the bottom and everything.
Well, then add to that all of these restrictions on voting where people are really, really beginning to think, what's the point? Why bother to go and vote because they're going to put all these restrictions? How do I know if I take time off work to go to vote that they're actually going to let me vote?
Well, and yeah, that's
and why are we taking time off work? Why are we taking time off work? You know what I mean? Why do we not have multiple days to vote? Why do we not have an election holiday? These sorts of things. I mean, they want to make it as hard as possible because they don't want the working people that are most affected by these issues to get out there and cast a vote and be involved in the process. And I don't know what we got to do to change that.
Well, and they want to still have these closed primaries, which
restricting voters yet again.
Which I've talked to Republican after Republican who's told me this is a slow suicide for our party right here, because it cuts out the independents, it cuts out the moderates, and they're going to vote somewhere because they want to vote somewhere, but they're not going to like the choices that are being
shoved down their
throats. I mean, it just cannot continue like this. Meanwhile, back at the State House, they're still discussing renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
Are you shocked? Are you surprised at all? Again, it's just the big issues. That way they can get the voters' attention and they don't have any do any work, like Josh was saying, with rural hospitals.
I mean, it's as ridiculous as somebody coming out today and saying, we are now naming North America North Trump America.
Trumpland.
Trumpland. Or any ridiculous, I mean, we just don't go around changing names willy-nilly for the fun of it, but they want to, because somehow more tourists are going to want to go to the Gulf of America than the Gulf of Mexico. No, they're not.
No, it's this absurd act that they've been putting on now for the last decade, in deference to this this oversized bully that they've allowed to take control of the party, and embrace this stupidity that comes along with whatever Trumpism and MAGAism is at this point, and ignore the self-enrichment and ignore the other things that are taking place, while the billionaires and the billionaire class enrich themselves off the backs of the working Americans and the working Alabamians. And that's taking place. It's been taking place in this state for a long time, which is why I wrote way back in 2016 when Trump was taking office that America was about to become one giant Alabama. And that's exactly what has happened. We have put these idiots in charge that are as corrupt as any people that you have ever seen. They have enriched themselves and their friends, and they have served only them at the expense of everybody else. And if people don't wake up, that gap is going to continue to grow until we can no longer afford to live every day.
It seems to me that in human history, one thing stands out. You can only ride the backs of people for so long and ride them into the dirt before they turn around and bite you. Because I believe that what the American people giveth, they can take away with their vote. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.